The Caribbean is full of incredible destinations, but the most popular choice isn't always the smart one. In this video, I'll show you 7 well-known islands that come with real trade-offs and the alternatives that might fit your trip much better. I'm Roger from PriceofTravel.com. Let's get started. Let's start with Aruba. Aruba is beautiful, it's easy, it's well developed, and it's extremely popular, but that popularity comes at a price. For the same high season dates, I found a very nice beachfront resort on Aruba, Eagle Aruba Resort, starting at around $518 per night. It has a 9.0 review score and more than 300 rooms. Now, if that fits your budget and you want a large, polished resort environment, Aruba is great. But if you're mainly looking for turquoise water, a sandy beach, and a relaxed Dutch Caribbean vibe, Curaçao deserves a serious look. On the exact same dates, I found Coral Estate Luxury Resort, a boutique beachfront property with an 8.8 review average, starting at around $222 per night. That's less than half the price. And one reason is structural. Aruba has leaned heavily into large-scale beach resorts. Curaçao still has a lot more smaller, independent properties, which keeps pricing more competitive. So before you automatically book Aruba, it's worth asking whether Curaçao might give you 90% of the experience for 50% of the cost. The next island to think twice about, depending on what kind of trip you want, is Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. And if you've watched my channel for a while, you've probably heard me praise it. Punta Cana is unique. It's mostly made up of nearly 100 massive all-inclusive resorts, each one with multiple pools, wide beaches, and everything you need right on property. It's clean, organized, surprisingly upscale, and the service is usually excellent. For certain travelers, it's fantastic. I sometimes jokingly call Punta Cana a vacation factory because that's what it feels like. Everything runs smoothly, everything is large scale, and once you're inside your resort compound, you could be almost anywhere in the world. And that's the trade-off. If your goal is pure relaxation with zero planning, Punta Cana is hard to beat, especially for big groups or multi-generational trips where everyone wants different activities. But if you want beach time and a real sense of place at the same time, there are smarter alternatives. Playa del Carmen, just south of Cancun, has all-inclusive resorts along beautiful beaches, but it also has a lively, walkable downtown where you can eat at local restaurants, browse small shops, and actually interact with the culture. And Cartagena in Colombia offers beach resorts nearby, plus one of the most beautiful and historic old towns in the Caribbean region. You can spend your days at the beach and your evenings wandering colorful colonial streets that feel completely different from a closed resort environment. So Punta Cana is great for a controlled, easy vacation, but if you want almost the same comfort level, plus a memorable cultural experience, Playa del Carmen or Cartagena might be a better fit. Next up is the Cancun Hotel Zone, and to be clear, this might be the most beautiful stretch of beach resorts in the entire Caribbean, maybe even the world. As you can see in the footage, it's basically one long narrow strip of sand lined with turquoise water on one side and a lagoon on the other. This was just a sandbar until the early 1970s when the Mexican government decided to build a mega resort destination from scratch, so almost everything you see here was purpose-built for tourism. There are dozens of excellent resorts along these beaches, including many strong all-inclusive options. If your goal is to fly in, check into a beachfront hotel, and relax without needing to go anywhere else, the Hotel Zone absolutely delivers. But what isn't obvious from the drone footage is how the area actually feels on the ground. For miles and miles, it's basically just large hotels and timeshare buildings with very few local businesses in between, and often nothing across the street except more resort infrastructure. So if you stay here, you'll usually get everything you need from your hotel and maybe visit the property next door, but that's about it. You can take a taxi down to the main nightlife and shopping area, but outside of that, it's not very walkable, and most of what you'll find still caters primarily to hotel guests. And for many people, that's perfectly fine. But if you like to walk around, explore a little, and feel like you're actually somewhere different, Isla Mujeres is a smart alternative. It's a small island just a short ferry ride away, but the atmosphere is completely different. You still get a beautiful photogenic beach, but you also get a compact, walkable town with local restaurants, small shops, beach bars, and places to rent bikes or water sports equipment. It feels less prepackaged and more like a real place, while still being easy, safe, and resort-friendly. So Cancun's Hotel Zone is fantastic for a controlled beach vacation, but if walkability and atmosphere matter to you, Isla Mujeres might be the better fit. Next up is St. Thomas in the US Virgin Islands. If you've ever taken an Eastern Caribbean cruise, there's a good chance you've stopped here, and that's part of the story. But first, a bit of context. Hurricane Irma hit St. Thomas hard in 2017, and many of the smaller, more affordable beach hotels were damaged or never fully rebuilt. Even years later, that has changed the hotel landscape. What's left tends to be larger properties or higher-end options, and compared to other nearby islands, prices can feel surprisingly high for what you get. The second factor is cruise traffic. Charlotte Amalie, the main town, still looks charming from a distance, but once you start walking around, you'll notice that a huge percentage of businesses are jewelry stores and souvenir shops, catering directly to cruise passengers who are in port for just a few hours. If you're actually interested in shopping for duty-free jewelry, that might be great. But if you're looking for atmosphere, scenery, and a place that feels more like a laid-back Caribbean escape, St. John, just 4 miles away by ferry, offers a very different experience. St. John is much smaller, and about 2/3 of the island is protected as Virgin Islands National Park. Development is limited, beaches are pristine, and the overall feel is quieter and more scenic. There are certainly day trippers, but the island doesn't have the same cruise port intensity. It's the kind of place people go back to again and again because it feels natural, relaxed, and less commercial. So St. Thomas is convenient and easy, especially if you're arriving by cruise or plane. But if you want dramatic scenery, protected beaches, and a more timeless Caribbean feel, St. John might be the smarter choice. Speaking of popular cruise ports, let's talk about St. Maarten. And to be clear, St. Maarten has a lot going for it. I've discussed it in several recent videos, and I've stopped there on cruises myself. It's famous for 2 things. First, it's divided between 2 countries. The northern side is French and the southern side is Dutch, so you get a bit of cultural contrast on one small island. Second, there's Maho Beach, where planes land just overhead. It's dramatic, loud, and absolutely worth seeing at least once. The issue isn't that St. Maarten isn't interesting, it's that it's busy. Port St. Maarten can hold up to 6 cruise ships at once, and in high season there are often 4 or 5 ships in port on a single day. That means thousands of extra visitors spreading out to beaches, shopping areas, and popular attractions. The island can start to feel less like a relaxing getaway and more like the crossroads of the Caribbean. Anguilla, just a short ferry ride away, offers a very different atmosphere. It's quieter, lower density, and much less cruise-driven. The beaches are widely considered some of the best in the region, and the overall feel is calmer and more upscale. Anguilla is usually more expensive than St. Maarten, but you're paying for space, scenery, and a slower pace. So St. Maarten is energetic and eventful, but if what you want is open beaches and a truly relaxed resort atmosphere, Anguilla might be the better fit. Another destination to think twice about is the northern coast of Jamaica, including Montego Bay and Ocho Rios. Jamaica is undeniably beautiful and culturally iconic. Reggae, food, personality, it's one of the most recognizable islands in the world, but where you stay here really matters. The north coast is lined with large, self-contained all-inclusive resorts, including several excellent sandals properties. If you're planning to stay inside one of those and enjoy the beach, pools, and organized excursions, this can work very well. Where things get trickier is if you book a hotel near town and expect a charming walkable Caribbean experience. The actual tourist zones in Montego Bay and Ocho Rios can feel aggressive and heavily commercial, with persistent vendors and shopkeepers. Some travelers find it exciting, others find it exhausting. If you want a more immersive but still beautiful experience, Negril on the west side of the island offers a very different vibe. 7 Mile Beach is lined with smaller hotels, restaurants, bars, and beach cafes. You can walk along the sand at sunset, pop into different spots for dinner, and feel more connected to the island. The vendors are still part of the experience. This is Jamaica, but Negril tends to feel more relaxed and more rewarding for travelers who enjoy a little energy with their beach time. If you want simple and contained, the North Coast resorts are fine. If you want sunsets, atmosphere, and a little bit more personality, Negril is often the better bet. The last one to think twice about is Paradise Island in the Bahamas. If you haven't been, Paradise Island sits just across the bridge from Nassau and very close to one of the busiest cruise ports in the Caribbean, which can handle up to 6 ships and tens of thousands of passengers in a single day. Paradise Island itself is dominated by Atlantis, and there's no denying how impressive it is. The resort complex includes 5 separate hotels and more than 3,800 rooms. The water park is world-class, the aquarium exhibits are genuinely spectacular. The beaches are beautiful, it's one of those places that really does make you stop and say wow. But it's also massive. It's busy, and in high season it can feel less like a laid-back Caribbean escape and more like a mega resort city, almost like a newer Las Vegas property just with palm trees and higher humidity. It's also expensive. On the same high season dates I checked, the cheapest room I could find was over $700 per night on a weeknight, and Atlantis is not all-inclusive, so food, drinks, and activities add up quickly. Atlantis has countless fans, and for families who want a high-energy vacation with built-in entertainment, it absolutely delivers. But if what you picture when you imagine the Bahamas is quiet turquoise water, uncrowded sand, and a slower pace, this may not be the version you're looking for. Once you leave Paradise Island and Nassau, you're in a completely different atmosphere. Islands like Exuma and Harbour Island are known for some of the most stunning beaches anywhere in the Caribbean. Wide stretches of sand, surreal electric blue water, and a far more relaxed rhythm. You can also find beautiful resorts on the main island of New Providence that feel calmer and more traditional without the scale and intensity of Atlantis. Paradise Island isn't bad, it's just one very specific type of Bahamas experience. If you're looking for something quieter, more scenic, and more relaxed, you may find that the best part of the Bahamas is actually somewhere else. The point of this video isn't that any of these islands are bad. Every destination on this list has plenty of fans, and for the right traveler, they can be a perfect fit. The point is that the most famous choice isn't always the smartest one. Sometimes it's more crowded than you expected, sometimes it's more expensive than it needs to be, and sometimes the better experience is just one ferry ride or short flight away. If you want more details on these islands and alternatives, I've also put together a full article on PriceofTravel.com with the same comparisons and updated hotel examples. I'll link that below. And if you like discovering smaller, more relaxed places that don't feel overbuilt, I also did a video on boutique Caribbean resorts you can actually afford. That one pairs really nice with this. As always, understand the trade-offs, do the research, and pick the version of the Caribbean that actually fits the trip you want. See you in the next one.